Thank you for joining us on the California Avenue podcast. I'm your host, PDR, and I have a special guest here today. I have my cousin, Dominique Sherrod.
Hey, what's up?
We're going to get into something very interesting. What are we talking about today?
Hey, we are talking about interracial relationships. For me, my experience is I grew up around it my whole life. You know what I mean? I lost my mom at a young age, and then ended up moving in with my brother, which is basically my dad, and then his fiance at the time, which is basically my mom too. You know what I mean? Because they raised me since 6 years old. And shout out to them. And I just think like love on a different level is what I saw with them growing up, but also just being around that environment growing up, it made me comfortable to jump into the relationship I have now with my current wife right now. My current wife right now, white lady, white woman, love her to death, everything too. Met her in college back in 2018, June 28, 2018. We've been married for 3 years now. Just had our first kid 2 months ago, and it's kind of something weird from the sense that like we grew up a little bit different on both sides, you know. So like for me, it wasn't weird at all. It wasn't strange. It didn't feel any other type of way. You know what I mean? I didn't really pay any mind to it because it's an environment I grew up in. And I think that just attests to anybody that's in any type of dating situation, any relationship, is I feel like some people when they date, it has to be sometimes similar to how they grew up because it's uncomfortable when you're dating somebody you don't feel like you can connect with that person on a level that you think you can connect with them on. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, the things I saw growing up have really transitioned over to my relationship now and how I feel too, and what my values are as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think everybody, their upbringing sometimes always does dictate who they are and how they operate and how they act. You know what I mean? And so that's the thing is interracial couples, they've been around for a long time. And honestly, like when I was doing research, Portia,
Mm-hmm.
it was hard to kind of pinpoint where it started at. And you did some research too, found Pocahontas and all that. I know
Mm-hmm.
the movie, you know what I mean? I don't know much about the history. So the thing that I challenge people on, and you challenge people as well, I don't want people to come to your podcast and get all the answers right away. I want people to go fish for their own answers as well.
Right.
So for the people that are listening to this, if you really want to learn the history and just where interracial couples started at, all that stuff, I challenge you guys just to look up the history and do the research yourself and find that answer yourself. Kind of where I want to start at, Portia, is 1883, um,
Tell me
Pace,
that.
Alabama. Okay,
Mm,
Alabama, you know, and
Alabama.
so and so have you heard about this case at all? Like, do you know much about this case?
I do not recall
Yeah,
about that case.
yeah, and I
Heard
didn't
about it,
either.
but can't
Yeah,
pinpoint.
yeah, no, and I didn't either until I started researching this stuff because the one thing I love about this is that I'm educating myself too on this stuff and everything, and I had no idea, but basically, it was a Supreme Court case, okay, and
Mm-hmm.
basically a white person and a black person, Negro back in the day, right? Back in 1883, known for and stuff like that. They were living with each other, and it was considered adultery and fornication. And so the thing about it was that this case, literally, when they found out, they convicted both of them to 2 years in the penitentiary. Can you believe that?
No. But then
That's
again,
like
yes, because of the history. It's like
because
no,
of the
like as
history.
in current times, but like historically, yeah, it makes sense. I'm surprised it didn't get longer because that was a really big deal historically in the States, and I would even go as far as to say in the world.
Yeah, and
Eh,
it says right here too, like they were
mhm.
tried, convicted, and sentenced each to 2 years imprisonment in the state penitentiary, and they
Yeah,
tried to appeal it. That was the thing. They appealed it, and basically, not to get too deep into it, the appeal was in favor of the 14th Amendment. Okay, and are you familiar with the 14th Amendment, portion? I had to look it up because I'm not too familiar with my amendments at all. But do
I
you
would
know
have
anything
to
about the
agree.
14th Amendment?
I have to agree with you. No, tell me about it.
I'm, I'm not either at all by any means. So I had to actually look it up and stuff. And after reading it, it makes sense. So, like the basis of the whole 14th Amendment, I'm just going to read this word for word so people know. You know what I mean? So basically, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the U.S. and of the state wherein they reside. Okay. So no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the U.S., nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, and or property without due process of law. And
Mhm.
so, nor deny any person with this jurisdiction to the equal protection of the laws. So basically, the whole point of it is that they were saying for the 14th Amendment, the reason why they're using that is because as US citizens, we should have the freedom to choose what we want to choose, right? And do what we want to do. And basically not be able to date somebody because of race and because of color was something that they were trying to appeal that honestly did not get much traction back then. Just because I feel like of the time and the era that they were in, 1883, like that was just you know about that. We don't have to go through the history of that and what went on back then. It
Yeah.
really wasn't until 80 years later that it really gained traction and took off in a case, and that case was the Loving case. And I don't know how familiar are you with that case, Portia?
I'm not very familiar at all.
Okay, so basically, the case is Loving versus Virginia. Okay, and the basis of the case and the facts of the case, and I got this information from um, just a website. It was oh, I can't even read it at all. I ain't gonna waste no time. It's gonna be in the comment section. Don't even worry about it in the citing section and stuff. But basically, the facts of the case was in 1958, two residents of Virginia, a black man, or no, a white man, and sorry, a black woman, Mildred Jeter, and the white man was Richard Loving. I'm all over the place. They were married in the District of Columbia. So when they returned to Virginia shortly thereafter, they were actually charged um, with violating the state's and we tried this word earlier, guys. Please forgive me if I botched this word completely, but me and Portia were listening to this word, trying to figure it out and all that. Let's see if I get it right. Okay. Anti miscegenation. I can't say the dang word. Say the word for me. Do you mind to say the word? I'm so sorry. You know
I
me.
low key forgot. You know what? Try to play the audio on your computer. Let's see if we can hear it again and get it right.
Exactly. Let's go ahead and anybody in the comment section and everything too as well. If you know what I'm trying to say, go ahead and type it right now. But we're gonna try to listen to this word real fast because honestly, I be struggling to pronounce things all the time. And if you know me, I don't pronounce anything right. My wife will laugh her butt off when I'm trying to pronounce stuff and everything too. So let's go ahead and listen to it real fast. Miscegenation. Okay, so anti-miscegenation
There
is
we
the
go.
word and stuff. So I just had to hear it again. Statute, which banned interracial marriages, which banned it, and so the Lovings were found guilty and sentenced to a year in jail. And so basically, the whole purpose of that verdict is it did get appealed, and it used the 14th Amendment again. And what they found out this time, it actually worked this time. And so, literally, here's from CNN.com. I got this little expert from the excerpt from here. I can't say that word either. Good God. I got this quote from this website and stuff, but basically said the Loving case did more than make interracial marriage legal nationwide. It helped spark a mini social revolution. So literally the dynamic shift represents a rare moment of racial progress that's equally embraced by a vast majority of white and black Americans because literally when this case passed over and when it officially passed because it's really known as the time when interracial like relationships and interracial like where you can date outside your race, it was made legal across the US after this case. The Supreme Court literally ruled in favor of the 14th Amendment and said basically that there's no reason why somebody of a different race cannot have the freedom to go date somebody out of their race if they would like to, if they want to. Okay. And so it was a huge deal. And when that case won, it really opened the doors. And this kind of opens the doors to statistics too, and kind of back then versus now, because back then in 1958, when they took a poll and everything, um, 4% approved of black and white racial, like, you know what I mean, dating and things like that,
Mm.
interracial dating. Okay. That number today has risen all the way up to 94%.
Mm.
That's insane to me. That's a
Mhm.
huge jump. And
Yeah.
that's not very much time. So I guess for you, Portia, I mean, why do you think there's been such a big jump? Do you have any, opinions on that, or why it's just changed so much in the public eye from back then?
Mm. I would have to say the freedom,
Yeah.
with the freedom without consequence. Um,
Yeah.
I really think that that has a lot to do with it, and the fact that that is just human nature to be attracted and desire who you want.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But because of how society was structured, it really hindered and prohibited a lot of people from legally having that experience. So some people probably didn't do it because of the consequence, the bad consequences that came with it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So what you're saying is basically you think like even before that ruling even came into play and before it even happened, you think there was a desire for interracial couples as well. You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
but
Yeah.
they had to hide it. Like it wasn't
Yeah,
something that was at the forefront, right? Like
of course.
it was something that
It was
literally it was a law.
happening.
It was a
It was
law.
happening. It was happening for some people, and then for others, they thought about it, but then they didn't act on it because of those consequences. So, absolutely, they were just the ones that tried to work around the laws at that time and got caught up, but by the grace of God, was able to fight back and win. And I had a question about that
Yes.
because you said they were able to legally date outside their race. Is that including marriage too?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I just
Yeah.
want to hear.
And so yes, and then they kind of just like bring it to the forefront a little bit to kind of just clear up everything I said to make sure that it's clear what I was saying.
Hmm.
Basically, that the question is, did Virginia's anti-miscegenation law violate the equal protection clause of the 14th Amendment? Okay. Of just everybody has equal rights, everybody can do and are allowed to do whatever they want to do, right? When what they want
Hmm.
to do it. When it comes to dating or doing anything, right?
Yes.
Yes, it was a unanimous decision at this moment in time when the court voted on it. And basically what they said is the court held that distinctions drawn according to race were generally odious to free people and were subject to the most rigid scrutiny under the equal protection clause. The Virginia law, the court found, had no legitimate purpose independent of invidious, if I'm saying that right, racial discrimination. The court rejected the state's argument that the statute was legitimate because it applied equally to both blacks and whites and found that racial classifications were not subject to rational purpose. Test under the 14th Amendment. The court also held that the Virginia law violated the due process clause of the 14th Amendment under our Constitution. The freedom to marry or not marry a person of another race resides with that individual and cannot be infringed by the state.
Mm.
So that's really like I just wanted to break that down a little bit more and give just that way it's just not me speaking on it and saying what I'm feeling, what I'm it's an actual fact, and that's what we're here for is we're saying the facts.
Right.
And this literally was the gateway to interracial to accepting it, like the for the acceptance and stuff too. But the thing is you saw the numbers increase, right? Back
Right.
then, nobody really agreed with it. So can you imagine like how hard it was for somebody to grow up in that time? Like I see me and Dana together now, and I honestly feel like Portia that honestly we live in a better world like when it comes to just interracial dating, but we still deal with challenges though. But I can only imagine the challenges back then were just blown up, you know what I mean?
Of
But
course.
100 times worse.
Yeah. Back in the early 1900s, it was a spectacle.
Yeah.
That was them taking that black person and hanging them,
Yeah. Yeah.
taking that black person and beating them to death and setting their body on fire. So that behavior from the white people that did not like and did not condone that in certain areas of the country,
Mhm.
that was the response. And
Yeah.
that also produced the fear, which is why people either didn't do it at all, did not date outside their race at all, thought it but never spoke on it or acted on it. And it really helped to enforce the historical habit that was created in keeping everyone separate
Yeah.
and keeping everyone accountable to that totem pole, right? I always say that there's a totem pole.
Yeah.
The totem pole is white at the top,
Yep.
then you have Asians, then you have Hispanic Latinos, and then you have Black people. And a lot of
Yep.
times I say that we're under the totem pole because we're not even seen as human a lot of times.
Yeah. That's the crazy thing
Yeah.
with my dad and my mom, mom being white, dad being black. I was able to just like see both sides of that. You know what I mean? So like when it came to just dating my wife, it was just like I fitted right in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Versus somebody that maybe come from two parent black household, it's gonna be something they gotta learn. You know what I mean? It's different. You get
It
what I'm
is.
saying? And like, or even a two white person household, and then it's just different. You gotta learn different things. Like, Dana's dad. I love Dana's dad because he wants to be educated. He asks me things
That's
all the time. I'll be using my products and stuff too. He's like, "What's that for?" I said, "It's just to keep my hair all nice and everything too." Like he just asks his questions when he doesn't understand stuff and everything too as well. And I think I I I'm blessed to be able to have like in-laws like them where they don't judge me for who I am by any means. They love who I am and they want to get to know who I am as a person and understand not just me, but me culturally as well too. Is
Yeah.
what it's like to be a black man, what it's like to be an African American. What like I like when people, it doesn't have to just be white people, but people in general can acknowledge that and see that
Yeah.
and 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 just ask questions because that's the thing is people don't be asking enough questions. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and like if you and I don't blame them. Like if they didn't grow up around African American people, black people, whatever, like do I expect them to know everything under the sun? No, not at all. But I like the fact that they ask me questions respectfully and are always not judging me for who I am. They're always just judging me by my character and just love me for who I am and always want to know about like what I got going on. Like I just appreciate that. And I know that's not the same for every single person out there, right? Like that's the crazy thing. And I feel like that's how you know when it's not working. It's not worth it by any means. For me, and I'm gonna end it on this, is sometimes when I do see the hate, it kind of throws me back because after a while you get so used to being surrounded by people that love you so much and love you for who you are. And then when you get somebody that truly tries to knock you down and tell you that that ain't right or like that, you know what I mean, that you're going to whatever they want to say to you by any means that doesn't come from a place of love, it hurts. You
Oh
know what
yeah.
I'm saying? It brings you back to reality again, and it's just like, damn, I thought everything was better when it wasn't. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think what we did today was just bring some points of awareness
Oh yeah.
to just all communities, all interracial couples, mainly the black
Yeah.
and white community as well too. I feel like we opened the door for some people that, and some of these people are going through these things right now. So I'm hoping that this brings awareness to them, and hopefully maybe we can help out some relationships out there.
Oh
And just
yeah.
there's still challenges that people are figuring out every day, and I feel like those are challenges that people should explore because from my experience, not
Mm.
for everybody's experience, not for everybody, right? But from my experience, it's been great. It's been amazing. It's been awesome. It's been a blessing. It helps me see things differently.
That's what's important. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We air every Wednesday. And until next time, like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and we'll see you.
Yes. thank you for having me on this podcast. I had a blast. I had fun. And man, I'm ready to do some numbers with you. So I'm
Oh yeah.
excited.